Hello Reader Babes, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for finding me. I am very happy to have you here. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of March and April. I basically filmed that video and the one you're going to see next a while ago. Haven't edited it because life has been lifing me, so I thought I'd just combine March and April together. So future warning. So last month I mentioned that I started the Chestnut Spring series and now I have finished them. I finished them pretty early on in the month. I just went straight into these next two books. So the first book I read was Powerless. This is a friends to lover. So the book series, if you're not aware, follows the Eaton boys. They're a family, there's 3 sons, and each of them has their own love story. Theo also has his love story, which I spoke about last month. He's a friend of the family, and Jasper has his own story. Now Jasper is an honorary Eaton, so he was in a hard place in his life, and Beau, one of the brothers, basically took him in and said, family, he's one of us now, and he's been living with them since. So yeah, they're family now. They're not honorary brothers, they're brothers. Let's not disrespect Jasper. They're brothers. They've taken him in, they really love him, and the found family is absolutely adorable. And then we meet Sloane. Now Sloane is their cousin. Oh, I can't really say he's their brother and then be like, Sloane is the cousin and they fall in love. That is awkward. That's incestuous. Take it back. He's an honorary brother. Let's just stick with that. Okay, there's no incest going on in this book. Sloane comes over when she's young. She stays at their ranch over summers. So that's how they met. And they've been besties ever since then. And we follow them to present day, and in present day, Sloane is engaged to somebody else. It's kind of an arranged marriage. She's not happy. Jasper's obviously not feeling that, and we follow their story from there. It's a friends to lovers. It's a cute story. I will say I don't think friends to lovers is for me personally. I just feel like, what do you mean after 20 years you now want to be with me, and do you know what I mean? Like, you should have been obsessed with me since day one, and the fact that it took this long, she got engaged to somebody else. That's not a spoiler, by the way. We find that out really early. I don't know, that just rubs me the wrong way. So this wasn't my favourite book in the series. I think I gave it a 3.5. I will say the second half flew by, which I think is consistent in these books. It just gets progressively better. But yeah, Friends to Lovers isn't really for me. I did enjoy the book though, 3.5 stars. It was a good book. I think it was like this and Flawless were my 2 least favourites in the series. But yeah, that's not because the book is bad, but I just need you to be obsessed with me since day one. I need you to see me and be like, yeah, love her. Amazing. That's what I need in my life. And 20 years, who is waiting 20 years? Not me. So not my favourite, but still a good book, still would recommend. And the last book in this series is Heartless. This follows Beau, so Jasper's bestie. He was in the army. Is it the army? I think so. Let's go with the army. He was in the army and he went through a traumatic experience and he's come back and his whole family's worried about him. There's also another girl in the story and she basically is going through a hard time as well because everyone hates her because her family is trash. Let's call it what it is. So they basically team up and form a fake engagement to boost her social standing whilst getting everybody off her back. That's the premise of the story. There is an age gap in this book and I don't really like age gap romances, but I will say this didn't really irritate me. Usually, like, it really irritates me. Like, why are you 18 and you tell me that you've been obsessed with me since when? That's weird. That's weird behaviour, but this wasn't like that. You can tell he's been looking out for her for a while, but not in a creepy way. So I didn't mind it. I enjoyed this book. I really did. I've seen quite a few people say they were so excited for Beau's book and were disappointed. So I kind of went in with low expectations, but I loved it. I really like Beau. Bailey's got a mouth on her and I love a sassy queen. I think I gave this like 4.5 stars. Like, this was up there for me. Between this one and Reckless, which is Theo and Winter's book, those are my 2 favourites. I really enjoyed this book. Yeah, I had a great time. So I definitely recommend. So yeah, that's a Chestnut Spring series. I've completed those books. So it ranged from like 2.5 to 5 stars. So overall, great series. They're very fluffy, very light reads if you are interested. I know she's got a previous series and I've heard people say that that's just as good. So I might start that soon. And I also know she's coming out with a book this month called Wild Love. So clearly I've got a lot of Elsie Silver to catch up with. So I recommend. I had fun with this series. Okay, so what did I read next? I'm just checking Goodreads. I read... Okay. Let me calm myself. Okay, so I don't want to say I'm embarrassed to admit this because I'm not. I own what I do. So as you may know, if you watched this channel, I read Manacled last month. Now, Manacled is a Harry Potter fanfic, very deep, very heavy. It's a Draco and Hermione fanfic, and it's very Handmaid's Tale, that kind of vibe. And this month, I read Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being Loved. Clearly, I have an itch that only Draco and Hermione can scratch. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry. It is what it is. It is what it is. I clearly miss them and I wanted another read, and I loved it. I loved it so much. It was a 5-star read for me. It was so good. Long. This book is long. Manacled is also long, but I feel like this book is longer. Even if it's not as many pages, I just felt like I spent longer reading it. Do you know what I mean? When I say slow burn, it is a slow burn. If you heard me talking about Manacled and you were like, oh, that sounds a bit deep, a bit dark for me, then maybe try this one, because this is a lot more light-hearted. It's very light-hearted, to be honest. I wouldn't say that there's super dark themes in here. In this one, everything that happened in Harry Potter happened, and this is like 15 years later. So 15 years later, Hermione is a very famous, very well-known healer, and Draco Malfoy is an aura, and they are put on an assignment together, and he is basically protecting her. And it is a slow burn. We follow them over the course of, I think, a year or two, and yeah, they're basically working on this project together. They obviously have to meet up, they have to spend a lot of time together. When I say slow burn, I mean slow burn, but when I said the love is strong, the love is strong. It was so good. It was so good. I would like to tell you that I'm done with my Draco and Hermione fanfics, but I don't know. So if anyone has any more suggestions, I'm not going to be opposed to it. But yes, moving on swiftly. Okay, so I completed my first ever reread in my life. I've never reread a book. I just feel like there's just so many books that I'm never going to read again. So I just have never had the desire to read something that I've read before. However, I was sitting and I was thinking, I read Happy Place last year when it just came out, and I didn't love it. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it. I really just liked the ending. And I've just been thinking to myself, like, I feel like if I read that book again, knowing what I know now in life, you would think I've been through some like hardship. I really haven't. I've just turned 1 year older. But knowing what I know now in life, I feel like I would just enjoy the book a little bit more in terms of the ending. I feel like the way I view life is a little bit different. So I feel like I'd have a better time reading the book. That was my mindset. I decided, why is my lighting so bright? Better? Okay, so I decided to pick up Happy Place by Emily Henry and read it again. I was definitely right. I loved it more the second time around. I think the first time around, I gave it 3 stars. And honestly, it probably would have been a 4.5, if not for the ending. And then I knocked it down. But this time, I think I'm going to give it the 4 to 4.5 stars that I think it actually deserves, because I appreciate the ending a little bit more. This is a second chance romance. So we have Harriet, and she met this group of girls in uni, 2 other friends, and they basically bonded amazingly well. This is like the biggest found family ever. And then they met 2 guys in uni, and they shared an apartment or house or whatever with them. And Harriet started dating Win, which is one of the 2 guys. And every summer they go out to their happy place, which is Sabrina, one of the friends, her dad's beach house, whatever house, like spare house. They're rich. So they do that every summer. And this year, Win and Harriet have broken up. They haven't told anybody, and they end up at their annual beach house. So that's basically the premise of the book. So it's a second chance romance. It's found family. And yeah, I read this again, and I just really appreciated this book. I really enjoyed it. The friendship in this book, I love it. It kind of is like a story of, yeah, cool, things can change over the course of 10 years. Our priorities can change, but the love that we have for each other, that's not going anywhere. I love that. And then I also just love how, I don't know, I feel like this book deals with real stuff. In the Chestnut Spring series, that's a fluffy ass romance. Whereas here, it's a lot more deeper topics. It was really good. I loved it. So yeah, that's why I decided to read it again. And I'm very happy that I did. I did read Beach Read in December. That's in my December reading wrap up. So then I was like, all right, I've read 2 Emily Henry books. Why not go for 3? So I decided to pick up Book Lovers, which is another popular book. I know from what I've seen, the battle is between Book Lovers and Beach Read. Like, those are the 2 ones that I see people like, which one's better? That's what I've seen. You let me know what your favourite is. So I picked up Book Lovers. I don't know why my lighting is just taking so long to adjust today, but I picked up Book Lovers. This book follows Nora and Charlie. They're both in the book industry. Nora is an agent. Charlie is a publicist. And they basically end up in the same. Basically, Nora's sister is like, you need to live life a bit more. Let's go to a small, cute town and live that whole book lifestyle. You know, the whole moving to a small town, meeting a cute guy, let's do that. And then they run into Charlie. So we follow their story from there. They've met each other before because she was like, they had a meeting about picking up a book. But it was an awkward interaction. It didn't really go anywhere. And then they meet again here. It's like kind of the anti-stereotypical small town romance. Like, they both like being in New York. They both like the big city life. I like this book. We have tall representation in this book. And I feel like this book is everyone is perfect for somebody. Yes, your exes might think that, you know, they want someone who's more this or more that, like more petite or more outdoorsy or more this or whatever, but like you are perfect for somebody, and I feel like this book is the definition of that. I loved this book. It was so wholesome. So the next book I read was The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. I'll put a picture up here, by V.E. Schwab, I think. This book was very different outside of my usual romance. In this book we follow a girl named Addie, and she was born 300 years ago, and she was born in France. And in those times, as you may be aware, you're a woman, you get married, you have kids, and that's basically your life. And she was very like, I want to travel, I want to experience life, da, 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 da. So she was a spinster, not really a spinster. I think she was like 23 or something and unmarried, which is kind of like unheard of, not the norm. And her family basically says, all right, this guy's wife just died. I think he had like 3 kids. You are going to marry him by force, by fire. You are going to marry him. So she's like, yeah, no. So she runs outside and makes a deal with the devil, literally. And she says like, yeah, give me time. You can have my life when I'm done with it, but just give me time. When you make deals with people, give them specific terms. She didn't do that. She didn't give no specific terms. So he cursed her. So she's cursed. Nobody can remember her. You meet her. After a minute of like you not being in her presence anymore, you completely forget who she is. Every year, and sometimes it's a bit more than a year, the devil will come and say, do you want to give up now? Do you want to sell your soul now? And she'll be like, nope, I'm still living my life. But she's not really living a life. She can't have a job because no one remembers her. She can't get money. She doesn't have a place to live. She's really roughing it out there. And one day she walks into a bookstore and the guy says, I remember you. And yeah, her life just turns upside down, and she meets this guy, and yeah, we follow the story from there. I think I've given enough for you to go in if that would interest you. But yeah, it was good. It was very, very different, definitely outside of my normal comfort zone, but I really enjoyed it. It was an amazing story. I really liked the ending. I've seen some people criticize the ending. I liked it personally. That's how I would have preferred it to end. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. 4 stars. The reason I gave it 4 stars and not any higher, even though 4 stars is very, very high, is because I just felt like it dragged at some points. I will say though, I did listen to it in audiobook, and I feel like sometimes when you're reading with your eyes, you can just move at a faster rate. But when you're listening to an audiobook, even if you're listening to it at fast speed, like the pacing might not be what you want it to be at that point. I don't know. I might have had a different experience if I read it physically. So that's just me being picky. But yeah, 4 stars, good book, very different. And now onto the last book of the month, which was my favourite book of the month actually, was Out on a Limb by Hannah Boehm Young. I loved this book. Clearly, I am like trying to recycle feelings that I felt. So I read Reckless last month by Elsie Silver. That's part of the Chestnut Spring series. Loved it. Never thought I'd be a pregnancy trope girly, but I loved it. So then I was like, all right, I liked one pregnancy trope, so let me try another. And Heather, she's a YouTuber, booktuber, she recommends Out on a Limb like no man's business. So I was like, all right, let me try it. Yeah, I'm glad that I did. It was amazing. It was absolutely fantastic. Actually, that is a pregnancy trope done right. That is a golden retriever man. That is a man right there. I love him so much. In this book, our 2 characters meet at a party. They have a one-night stand. She finds out she's pregnant. She tells him. He cries with happiness, and we follow them from there. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was so cute, so wholesome, easy 5 stars. I didn't have to think about it. Yeah, so good. So I definitely recommend that book if you liked Reckless by Elsie Silver, or if you just might be interested in dabbling into the pregnancy trope type of books. Definitely recommend. Easy 5 stars. Loved it. Okay, so I wanted to quickly talk about the books I DNF. So I DNF books every single month because I'm like, there's so many books out there. If I'm not enjoying it, like I'm not going to force myself to read it. So there are 2 books though that I'm struggling with. They're both fantasy books, and they're both very, very popular fantasy books, but I'm not enjoying myself. I'm at the point where I'm like halfway in both of these books, and I'm like, if the main character dies, I don't think I'd care that much. Like, if anybody died, really, I don't think I'd be that sad, which is not a point where you want to be in a fantasy book, like halfway through. So I'm going to tell you about the books, and I would really appreciate it if you told me, like, I've read the book, commit, like, stop being an idiot. You need to finish these books. They're really good. Or if you just tell me, like, girl, if you're not enjoying it now, you're not going to enjoy it. So the first book is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I'm listening to this on audiobook. Yeah, I'm just not into it. Everyone told me that it was really, really good, really fast paced, but I'm bored and I'm not enjoying it. I'm around the 40-something% mark, something around that. Not 50%, but not 40, somewhere around that. Please let me know if you've read it, if you recommend it. If I'm just being a loser, just let me know, because I feel like I've committed a lot of time into the book to give up now, and I will only continue if you tell me to. And the next book I am considering DNFing, well, I have DNF'd it, but I'll jump back into it if you tell me to, is surprisingly A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 5th book in the ACOTAR series. I read 1 to 4, 1 to 3 fantastic, 4 unnecessary, but it's a novella, it's okay, it didn't take much of my time. I am really not enjoying 5. I'm halfway through that book. I just feel like it's a completely different book to the rest of them. Like, I don't mind smarting books, but I just feel like there's no plot. I don't know. So, does it get better? Am I going to enjoy myself? I don't know. So please let me know. I don't usually talk about my DNFs. Let me know if you want me to start incorporating them into my reading wrap-ups. I think I've DNF'd way more books than the 2 that I'm mentioning. Those are the 2 that I'm like, okay, I'm over 50%. I've read like 300-400 pages, which is a book in itself at this point. Like, do I just give up? I think I just need advice. I'm coming to you. Please let me know. Okay, future me is back. I'm now going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of April, and I will post and edit this video before May comes around. In my defense, I meant to say before May ends. That's what I meant to say. So I'm not late. Okay, so I've been hearing a lot about Abby Jimenez as an author recently, and I have not read or had not read any of her books before, so I decided to pick up the Part of Your World series. There are 3 books in this series. Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer, which came out just now in April. And I listened to all of them on audiobooks, and I loved the series. Absolutely recommend the series, definitely. Part of Your World is first. In this book, we have someone who was in an abusive relationship. She also has a toxic relationship with her parents, and she is a doctor, and she one day finds herself in this small town, and she meets a cute guy, and we follow their relationship from there. Loved it, very wholesome, great character growth and development. Honestly, it was just a great book. It was 5 stars. I definitely recommend the series. In the second book, which is Yours Truly, we follow a different couple, of course, but it's her best friend. And he is also a doctor, so they're both doctors. She has recently been divorced, and he is recently out of a relationship as well. So there's a bit of fake dating in the mix. And in this book, we follow a character with social anxiety, and I've never read, I'm trying to think, I don't think I have read a book with a character who has social anxiety, or at least in so much detail, or it being a main character. And for me, I just found it very eye-opening. It talks about what they're going through, what's going through their mind, why they're making the decisions that they make in a way that I have never considered before. I personally don't have social anxiety, so I didn't think that people went through that. I hope that doesn't make me sound like an asshole, if I'm being honest, because that's not my intention. I don't know, I think if you don't go through something personally, you kind of might find it hard to imagine what other people are going through. But reading, 400-300 pages of someone going through something, it's very eye-opening. And the book, I left the book wanting to be more patient as a person, wanting to be more sympathetic as a person. So that's not what I signed up for when I went into the book, but it was a great reading experience. I don't know, it kind of taught me that, people don't think the way that you think. They don't make decisions the way that you make decisions. Like, just have some grace and be patient, girl. So yeah, honestly, that alone made the book 5 stars, but the romance was also fantastic. So I definitely recommend Yours Truly. The characters were both great. The storyline was great. Entertained from beginning to end. So fantastic book. The guy is the biggest golden retriever. He's so adorable. Absolutely love him. It's the guy who has social anxiety, if I haven't said that already, which is different. I loved it. And the third book in the series is Just for the Summer. That came out literally in April, and that book starts with a Reddit thread, which I think is just so with the times. It's one of the am I the arsehole for naming my ugly dog after my ex-best friend. I think that's the theme of the book. But basically, we meet 2 characters, and they're both cursed. Everyone they date finds the love of their life after them, pretty much. So they basically decide to date to cancel out each other's curses so that they can find the love of their lives after each other. So they agree to meet up and date for a summer, and then they're supposed to go their separate ways. We know how romance works. We know what's going to happen from them, but it's an amazing story. I will say there are other characters in this book, one in particular who drives me up the wall and just really gets on my nerves. So I don't want to say I didn't enjoy the book, I really did, but they made the book less enjoyable. But you get that in books. You get characters who are supposed to provoke you and who are supposed to make books less enjoyable for you. So because of that, though, I was just like, oh, please just get off my screen, or get off my page, I should say. So yeah, apart from the annoying character, this book is amazing. The book all these books tie in together, and I feel like the way that this book ties into the other books, absolutely amazing. Did not see that coming. 10 out of 10. You need to read these books, and you need to read them in order. Do not do yourself a disservice, okay? Read Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and then Just for the Summer. Read all of them in order. Don't skip any. There are no skips on this album, okay? There's no skips. Read them all. You're doing yourself a disservice if not, because I've warned you. So read them all. It's amazing. Absolutely loved it. I will say Just for the Summer, I think I gave it like a 4 or a 4.5 stars. It wasn't as good as the other two, in my opinion. But I've seen a lot of people say it's their favourite in the series, so that just might be me. But overall, fantastic series. Definitely recommend. I will be buying whatever Abby Jimenez puts out next because I'm impressed. I loved it. Okay, next book I read was Next of Kin by Hannah Bowen Young. I read Out on a Limb in March. If you watched that video, was it March or February? Look at me, I don't know anymore because this is coming out late, but I read Out on a Limb previously. So I decided to, do you know what actually happened? I was on TikTok and Hannah Bowen Young, the author, made a video saying everyone loves Out on a Limb, but no one's talking about this book, and this book is my favourite book that I've ever written, etc, etc. So I was like, all right, okay, if I see her book in stores, I'm going to buy it. So I saw this book thinking it was the book she was talking about. It wasn't the book that she was talking about. That's another book, which I will hopefully read one day, but it wasn't this book. But I was like, okay, I own it. Let me read it. So I read this book. This book follows a lady and she is adopted. She was a foster child and then the family adopted her. And the reason she was in foster care was because her mum has addiction issues, and she got a call and they basically said, your mum has just given birth. You have a sibling, but your mum isn't in the right state to take care of her. Will you take this child? So she steps up to the plate and she basically says, yeah, cool, I will take my sister. However, she has to get approved. You can't just foster somebody. She has a big apartment, but she doesn't earn enough money on paper to meet the criteria. But there's this guy that the agency says, and he wants to have custody of his brother. He wants to take care of his brother. He does earn enough money, but his apartment is a 1-bed apartment, and if you're over the age of whatever, you need to have a 2-bed apartment. So they're like, all right, you two combine forces, match made in heaven. So that's basically what we have. We have 2 adults who are looking after their siblings because their parents aren't able to do it, and they need each other to match all the criterias. Hopefully I've explained that well. That is the book. That is the premise. I don't know what my issue was with this book. It just didn't hit for me. I just felt like it was a bit cringy and unrealistic at some points. Of course, it's a fluffy romance book. I know that we're going to get some unrealistic, cringy moments. But I don't know. It wasn't it for me. It wasn't it for me. I wish I could give you more details. I probably should be a better book reviewer. Hello, future editing me here. I think I've collected my thoughts. He was just a bit of an asshole and I never got over it. Basically, I feel like when we met him, he was just an asshole and it just didn't get better, in my opinion. There was development and we do get explanations, but I don't think I really cared at that point. For me, I feel like it dragged on too long for me to give a damn. So I just wasn't convinced. For me, this book wasn't my favourite. I gave it 2 stars, 2.5 if I'm being completely honest, but it didn't hit for me. It wasn't my favourite book, to be honest. I definitely preferred Out on a Limb, but based on her raving her other book, I will definitely try the next book in this series. But yeah. Okay, and the last book I read in the month of April was The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. This book, I don't think I've ever read a book that was executed so well in my life. The execution of this book was absolutely fantastic. In this book, we follow 3 different women. On Valentine's Day is where we meet them, and they have all been stood up. Their date is a no-show, and we follow their romantic lives from that point onwards. I don't want to tell you any more because it would be unfair. That's all I knew going into the book. That's all I want you to know if you haven't read it. I would just go into this book blind. I will say there were some points in the book where I was like, okay, come on now, let's pick up the pace. I'm getting a bit bored. I'm getting a bit irritated with the characters, one in particular. So if you're reading the book and you feel like that, don't stop. Don't stop. Continue. You must finish. You must see this book to the finish line. It was so good. It was so good. It was 5 stars. Amazing. Execution, amazing. I understand that it's slow in some points if you've read it, or if you're in the middle of reading it, or if I've convinced you to try and pick it up, but we must see this book through because I need to talk to you about it when you know what's going on. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. Execution 10 out of 10. I'm so happy I picked this book up. Wow. 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 It was good. It was so good. I was struggling. Do I want to rate it at 5 stars? Because until I got to a certain point, I wasn't really enjoying it that much. I was like, okay, it's dragging a bit. But honestly, I just can't not give it a 5 star after finishing it, after seeing it through to the end. Just read the book. That's what I want to say. Just read the book. Absolutely amazing. 5 stars. Loved it. Okay, so that is all the books I read in March and April. I also want to say thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to the YouTube channel, been a part of the gang. We have recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which is amazing and so cool. So yes, thank you so much for being here. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do consider it. I would absolutely love to have you. I just talk about books and things that I like, so why not join me? But yeah, hopefully I will be more consistent and it won't take 2 months for me to post another video. But yes, life has been lifing me. Hopefully life will slow down a little bit and I will see you soon. But yeah, please let me know what your favourite books are over the last couple months, because I want to add some more books to my TBR. I've been struggling with what to read next. I have read a couple books in May already and it is already proving to be an amazing month. So yeah, please give me some of your recommendations. See you in the next one. Bye.